Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Ryan with Propelio. Today's Grant Teach Me Something. We're going to be talking about part 3 of Grant's 3-part course. Maybe it's 4-part. Who knows? Who cares? But today we're going to be talking about building your portfolios using Sub2s. So stick around, have fun, join in the comments, ask questions, and let's get to it.
Teach me something.
What up, everybody?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going. It's Wednesday. It's cold. It's wet.
So I've got some bad news.
What's that?
Is that we have to actually? So I got contacted by one of our viewers last week.
Yep.
That we had the video was messed up last week, and we're gonna have to re-record it.
What are you talking about?
You know why?
Why?
Because you didn't sing "Grant Teach Me Something."
Grant, teach me something.
I had somebody reach out. They were like, "Last week's episode was invalid because Ryan didn't sing "Grant Teach Me."
Well, we had Pat Hilton.
We have Pat
Hilton who recorded it.
Yes.
Out-of-state musician.
That is awesome. How's it going, guys? Good to see you today. I'm glad that we are all joining together again in this 3 of something part series. So as the intro has gone for the past couple of weeks, Ryan had a really good point between seasons and saying, hey, you know, last season was awesome, but maybe if we had some mini-series, right? Some content that we kind of put in a row to help people build from scratch rather than just kind of being the shotgun approach.
And then like throw them in the deep end and just like, hey, full immersion.
Yeah, right.
Which is, I think, is a good choice no matter what.
Totally.
But I get it. Some people want, 0, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C.
Right.
It's
Well, in this way, it's helpful to have both, because if you want the shotgun, like, hey, we're going to talk about some advanced stuff right from the beginning, go check out season 1. We have a playlist on Propelio's Facebook. You can look through those things, and we do talk about some pretty advanced stuff, pretty right off the bat. But here, episode 1 of what we are saying is season 2 starts our mini-series. A series of mini-series is his eyes. Part 1, we talked about like what are some of these abbreviations you're hearing: LTC, LTV, ARV. What does all of that stuff mean? So if you're getting confused by any of those things that we might throw out today, go check out episode 1, 2 episodes ago. The second episode, we talked about, okay, now that we've kind of built an idea of what these words mean, what a basis is, all that kind of stuff, what is some of the stuff that we might want to build on for the future, which is owner financing.
Right. And we also talked about how one thing in real estate could actually have 17 different definitions.
For example, like what's one? Like title, right? Title means a couple different things.
It could be the title company, it could be the title workers, it could be the whole title process, it could actually be the title piece of paper.
Yep. All kinds of stuff. So context clues.
Or HUD. HUD's a fun one. It's a building, it's a government organization, it's a piece of paper. Anyway,
it's a type of house that you can,
it's a type of house.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so different things like that last week where we were discussing kind of building, and then what owner financing is. Owner financing is an umbrella term which encompasses many different types of investing strategies, like subject to wraparound mortgages, free and clear owner financing, that kind of stuff. Last week, we went over an example of free and clear owner financing so that you can understand the principles of what we're talking about with owner financing, right? I wanted to take as many variables out of the equation as we possibly can, and then we will kind of build in from there. So this week, we're going to go into one of the coolest strategies that there is, Subject 2. Subject 2 is a really exciting strategy because it allows you to buy houses. You can buy so many houses with Sub2 that you wouldn't be able to purchase with cash.
And real quick, only because we just mentioned about how it has multiple definitions, can we really quick, what is the actual definition of Subject 2?
Totally. So Subject 2, you may see it abbreviated as the number 2. You'll see that a lot. Subject 2, when we're referring to it in this context, we're talking about, I'm going to buy your house subject to the underlying lien staying in place as is. That's what Sub2 is short for in this world. But to your point, Ryan, sometimes you might have a purchase of a house that's subject to the tenants moving out.
Subject to fixing the roof.
Subject to fixing the roof, right? There is like if you're putting something in your special provisions that says, I'll buy the house if, that's a subject to clause, right?
But in the REI underground, like Sub2 is owner financing or seller financing,
exactly.
Et cetera, et cetera.
If you hear anybody that's already investing or in this world talking Sub2, that's what we're referring to, is buying a house with owner financing, meaning We're buying a house that already has a mortgage in place, and we're just going to continue making those payments to that mortgage, even though we own the house. It's essentially taking over on payments.
And you've said this 1,000 times, so I will prevent
Please.
you from having to say 1,001. I'll say it for you. When we're talking about owner financing and seller financing, we're essentially saying the same thing. It's just your perception of who's doing it. So owner financing or seller financing,
Right.
same shit.
They're synonymous, same kind of thing. So when we
Did that throw you on
No,
that one?
well, a little bit.
Wow,
Because
that was the one that threw him? It was like just explaining that seller finance and owner finance are the same
Well,
damn
because
thing.
I thought you were going to go down a different road. I thought you were going to talk about the taking over on payments versus the making payments on your behalf.
I'll get
'Cause
there.
you got-
We hadn't gotten there
right,
yet.
totally. I get it. So last week what we talked about was free and clear owner financing at its core, at its most. In its simplest form, what does owner financing do? So now we're going to expand on that a little bit. And this is a way for you to acquire properties. It's a really exciting way for you to acquire properties.
To build your portfolio.
To build that portfolio. And I say build your portfolio with Sub2 because, to divert this into a mini rant, which is not a real rant, I want to preface this with saying rentals have their place. Rentals are they are a great investment model for what they are. My problem with what the majority of people view rentals as is that the majority of people getting into real estate don't realize the reality of what a rental is, which is not the thing that makes you rich. And I've said this in the past where I think what's happened is there's a correlation versus causation problem. I think a lot of people see that rich people have rentals and make the connection that says, well, I'm going to get rich off of rentals.
Right.
Nobody gets rich off of rentals. It doesn't happen. You get rich, then you get rentals, right? So when you talk about building a portfolio, a lot of people who want to build that portfolio just assume, hey, rentals are my route to go with that. I'm going to build my portfolio with rentals. And again, let me preface this. It can be done. Obviously,
Right.
there is a guy out there
let's,
that has...
let's go down that rabbit hole for 2 seconds, just because some people might be scratching their heads going, what do you mean by that? And the reality is, so I have a $100,000 house, it's a $1,000 rental. If I have $200,000 in the cash in the bank, I buy 2 rentals and I get $2,000 back. That's a hell of a return. But $2,000 a month is going to take a while before you can buy that third rental.
Right.
So obviously, financing creative, you can get a little crazy, but essentially that's what you're referring to.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and also just building that portfolio,
Yeah.
right? We talk about if you're trying to get a portfolio of rentals, well, lenders aren't going to lend to you if you don't already have something to show them that you're worth lending to, right?
Right.
So that kind of plays into my get rich then get rentals. I've had, in my first year of doing real estate, I bought about 65 to 75 houses. I don't remember how many it was, but they were all with Sub2. And I was able to get my first deals using owner financing, buying and putting into my portfolio, whereas a lender would have never lent to me.
And I've known Grant for a couple years now, and in that first year or two, he'll be the first one to tell you he was broke as anything.
Oh, yeah.
Because your cash flow on some of those houses were like $100,
Yep.
$150, $200. But guess what? You do more and more and more of those. It adds up, and over time now he's Grant Kim. Grant Kim.
It's like we said, singles put points on the board, right?
Yeah.
It all adds up. But because I was broke coming in, right? Because, to expand out further, if you're joining us and don't know, I don't come from money. My background, I grew up in a 1,000 square foot home in Garland. I always say it's, we had gang signs tagged on the front of it, huge drug dealers next door. My grandfather was an oil rig worker. I don't come from money. I didn't have anybody that was in real estate. So a lender's not going to give me money to get a rental. But in that first year, I was able to put 60, 70,000 houses into my portfolio, which set the foundation for becoming a millionaire within 5 years.
And what's great about this whole conversation that we don't need to revisit, because Daniel and Grant did a video on this, and Travion actually did a fun video of it,
Yeah.
is you can disagree. Daniel points out right there, is I disagree. Rentals are a great way to retire with fast and with little to no money in the right market cycle.
In the right market cycle, yes, that is key too. And yes, Daniel, so there is you can think about the BRRRR method, the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, that kind of thing. That can work. But I'm just saying experientially, and
Is that a word?
Anecdotally, I don't know, whatever, I'm making it a word now. I just don't know anybody that has really gotten to that point.
Yeah.
You know, because I just don't know anybody that's actually done that. That has built a portfolio off of rentals. It sounds great. I just don't know anybody that's actually done that. So that's kind of where my background comes. But yes, hopefully maybe we can link to that video.
So if
in a
you've
little
done
bit.
that, send Grant Kemp at grantKemp.com.
Yeah, shut me up. I would love to know
and send
it.
him a bunch of poop emojis. Anyway, I didn't mean
Just
to go
don't
off
put 'em
on
on
that
fire.
tangent. But anyway, going back to the owner finance and the portfolio building.
So this is a great way to build that portfolio,
Yeah.
even if you don't have that capital.
Right.
And I'm saying this as somebody who did it.
And then I can attest.
You're
I
vouching.
remember seeing him at the
My first table-
1795
in our old Taco
office
Bueno.
where he's like, man, I just made $100 a month. Woo.
Heck yeah, dude. And my first desk was a fold out, one of those white fold out desks that you get for like $15 from Walmart, and that was a decision for me
There's
to purchase
nothing
that.
wrong with that because 2 of our desks here are the same thing.
Speaking of which, I do want to make a small. I was gonna go, and then I was like, that's not even totally worth that. So we just replaced all of our furniture in the office. So if you are getting started in the business and you are at that position where a $15 purchase for a table is going to be a decision for you, and you want some office furniture, reach out to me, and you can have our stuff. Okay.
The fold out? I want the fold out.
The fold out.
No, like the 6 foot. You have a 6 foot.
No.
picnic
I have
table?
like actual office furniture that we just replaced. Like I'm not talking about the fold out. I'm
Nobody
talking about
cares.
like
Let's move
actual. Okay. I'm just saying. Just
If you want
offering.
furniture, reach out to
If
Grant.
you want it for free, I'm helping. Okay, so with subject to, this is how we're going to purchase. I'm going to go back to our example of owner financing real quick. So if we go and we look at what a typical owner financed deal looks like, this is what we're at. We have a house, okay? And the seller of this house is going to sell it to you, the investor. And then you, instead of going to a bank over here and getting a mortgage, a note and deed of trust, you're just going to offer to pay the seller on a monthly basis, right? Whatever that might be. You're going to pay them their mortgage, which means that you're going to have a deed of trust and a note. Again, if any of these things are confusing to you, feel free to go back to look at last week's episode because we explain all of this in depth. And that's what gives you ownership of the property or a warranty deed.
And real quick disclaimer, we talk about this all the time. These strategies are simple in concept, but please, please, please get a mentor, get an attorney, because you can screw yourself, screw the seller, screw everybody, and just implode the whole thing if you don't know the ins and outs.
Absolutely.
So,
It's
anyway.
important. And on that note, we are not attorneys, we are not CPAs, we're not licensed, we're not teaching, this is for entertainment purpose only. But
He's just a guy with an iPad,
I'm
y'all.
just a guy with an iPad. Why even trust me? I mean, it's a pretty sweet iPad. Okay, so that's what like a free and clear owner financing would look like. Very simple. You get deed to the house, you pay your seller a note and a deed of trust. Now, in our scenario, what we're going to do is we're going to change this up just a little bit, and I'm going to start color coding some stuff. Okay,
Color coding.
so we've got a seller here, and our seller owns the house. I'll just make the house black. Okay, but our seller also owes the bank money because our seller most likely has a bank loan. Okay, I'm gonna make that our nice commercial building. So if you follow the money, they are paying. You like my references? I got sweet memes, bro. If you look at where the money's going, they're paying every month to this bank already. Okay. Now with that bank, they have oops, that's not the right one. They have a deed of trust and they have a note. Real quickly, just to go back over what a note and deed of trust is. What does a note say? What does a deed of trust say? Exactly. So what we're gonna have is
One is giving ownership, one is a security instrument to say, hey, you better make your payment and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. So halfway there. So the deed of trust is the security instrument. The deed of trust is going to be the one that when a foreclosure occurs, the deed of trust is what's allowing that foreclosure to occur. That's what the owner said, hey, if I don't pay my payments like I said I would, you get to take my house back from me. The note is those payments. The note says, hey, you're going to pay me 4.5% over 30 years, $100,000. And then the deed of trust says, if you don't, I get to take the house back from you. That's how it works in Texas. There is a mortgage in other states, which is not the note and deed of trust. Same thing. We're talking about the same thing here. So what we're doing, though, is if we track this owner, obviously at this point in time, has ownership to that house, right? They have a warranty deed. Now, this person is who you want to buy your house from. This is Joe Schmo homeowner that we're going on an appointment with, that maybe they're facing foreclosure or whatever that might be. Now, so you're going to come into the picture, Joe or Josephina investor. Wow, with a broken leg. You're like leaning, it's doing something crazy here. And, well, let me say, I'm going to put this as you. You're going to come into the equation, and you want to buy this house from the homeowner. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, I would love to buy this house from you, and I will give you the asking price that you want. Let's say that the homeowner owes, what are they going to owe on their mortgage?
$72,700.93.
Okay, so on there...
You can say $73,000.
I was with you. All right, so on their underlying lien, I'm going to put UL.
Underlying lien, UL,
underlying
because we
lien.
missed that the first week, I think.
Right, $73,000, okay?
And real quick, what is an underlying lien?
Underlying lien is like the mortgage, right?
Yeah.
So lien position, what is a lien?
Right.
A lien is debt on the property.
Right, and lien positioning is based off who files first.
Lien position based on who files first. Very important. We'll get into lien position and some of that stuff more in future
I know
episodes.
a couple of things, y'all.
You know more than a couple. You know like at least
few.
3.
I know a few.
At least a few.
Several.
And just for fun, let's do this. What is our interest rate on this? What is their loan? Our seller's loan with their bank. They owe $73,000. What's their interest rate?
5%.
5%. Okay. And how much longer do they have left on this loan?
22 years.
22 years. Oh, it's Ryan's been listening, man. This guy knows it. I'm at least 4 things, because we always use 22 years. 22 years is I'm going to put amort here, standing for amortization. That's how much longer we have on that loan. 22 years is a very typical amount of time that you're going to find that somebody owes on their house. If you want a marketing tip of the day, your little quick nugget marketing tip of the day, people that sell subject to typically have owned their house for 2 years or 8 years or whatever it means so that they have 18 years left, 12 years. So like 2, 8, and 12.
You know, that's a good tip, because I don't remember us ever bringing that up in these grant teacher somethings. We always just do this, sub to it. But like, that's a huge tip right there. So for the 7 people on YouTube watching, thank you. And the 35 people on Facebook watching, thank you. That's a massive tip that I don't know if you've wanted to share, but
yeah,
you shared it.
I haven't necessarily revealed that in the past. But yes, so that is a good tip.
That's a huge one.
Because you can look when people filed their mortgages.
Yeah, and as far as like, because if you're trying to do marketing, and I'm gonna milk this tip. If you're gonna do marketing, you know, typically you're like, well, how long do they own it for?
Yeah.
And like, if you're trying to do for the wholesale route, you're like, well, I guess they need to own it at least 10 years or so. So if I'm marketing to people that have owned it for at least 10 years, I missed out on this entire section of potential.
That's a very good point, even to extrapolate from that. Yeah, because I don't fully appreciate that side of it, since I usually am marketing to this, but you're absolutely right. When you're looking for those high equity leads, you're looking for people who have owned it for longer.
Right, because if I'm a wholesaler, like, there's no point in me marketing to somebody who's owned it less than 10 years, because there's not enough equity in the deal.
Right.
But from a sub-2 route, guess
you can totally get that done. Right. And so one of the things that, you know, if we're going to, let's do it, let's talk marketing, let's help some people out. One more tip.
Hell yeah.
When you do that, I mean, okay, so you can't just go market to everybody that's owned their house for 2, 8, or 12 years. You want to combine these lists. You want to try and find a way to where you can find people who are maybe facing foreclosure and got their mortgage 2 years ago, or, you know, that kind of thing, where it's like they hit more than one criteria. That's where that time frame is really going to help you narrow into your targeted list.
And Cameron Peters from Virginia, he's like, and this is a good question, and this might just be, I don't think it can ever be empirical, but it might just be anecdotal. Like, why do you think it is 2, 8, and 12? Empirical means fact, anecdotal means kinda, I think. Right,
yeah. So I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Like, why do you think it's 2, 8, and 12?
Why do I think it's 2, 8, and 12? Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. There's a couple of things, and I've thought about that before in the past, of like trying to figure out what might be the thing that causes that to happen. And the only thing that I can land on, which makes me a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, not like apprehensive to even say that these are, because I don't know if we're getting the majority of 2, 8, and 12 because of the time we are right now, right? Because like a couple of years ago, rates were at a rate where it made sense, or
Appreciation on
8 years ago, and that kind of thing. Like, it's not necessarily like, because right now, just to be clear for anybody watching in the future, we're in October of 2018. So it may not be 2, 8, and 12 in 2020.
Right.
It might be 4, 10, and 14 at that point in time, right?
Right.
So I don't know. But since 2012-ish, that has been the most common areas that I see people having purchased there.
Anecdotally. And real quick, this is a good time to just kind of like give some shout outs. Christopher Coy, morning from Colorado. I don't think I've seen you on here, so awesome. Thank you, sir. Well, obviously he's watched before because he's referencing Wrap Donuts. Wrap Donut versus lease option. Which one protects me as the investor? I feel like the wrap with the 2 LLC system gives the greatest protection. Before Grant answers, not a lawyer. And go.
Yeah, not a lawyer, absolutely not. So we talk about the 2 LLC system at the beginning of, or the first episode of last season, right? You can look into that. I want to be ultra clear though, and I think we were ultra clear in that one as well. This is not a, again, we're not
you
attorneys.
talked about last week.
The 2 LLC system, yeah. And just saying, like, it might not stand up in court. It might not. It's something that the attorneys that I've spoken to liked the idea. I've recently been talking to attorneys who don't like the idea, right? So it can go both ways, okay? So just be very clear on that. You're getting into it, making a decision from the start. But we'll talk more about wraps versus lease options in further episodes. In order to try and keep these things concise and on target as much as possible, we're going to stick with the Sub2 today. But next week is going to be when we talk about wraparounds. And so we'll address wraparounds at that point in time. And lease options are always kind of wrapped up in that conversation. So we'll go there.
And then I just want to shout out to people watched on YouTube, Sonia, Double E. That's one thing about the YouTube commenters. Like, then you're going to get like Bad Boy 72.
Right, I know, yeah.
But, Kevin Stewart was saying Brandon Turner, Bigger Pockets, friend of his, built a huge on rentals. Absolutely, and again, it's one of those models.
My question would be, did Brandon Turner have a corporate America job that was making enough money for him to get a bank loan on rental 1 or 2?
Right.
That's where it comes down to, right? Because I think that we do have those stories, but most of the time when I hear that story, the guy was already making $80,000, $90,000 at his corporate America job and was able to get funding for that first deal from a hard money lender or somebody who's willing to lend on a.
And to be clear, no one's discrediting anybody's success.
Totally.
It's what was the circumstances? Because I'll just say Daniel, just because he's my man. Like, could a Daniel coming straight out of not finishing high school and not doing this and not, I don't really know his full history, so I'm not going to whatever. Sure. But he's not somebody that has a corporate job with, clean cut with the 4-year degree, et cetera, et cetera. I went to Harvard, blah, blah, blah. Anyway. And then doubly, yes, all of this can be found in depth at the Propelio Academy. Thank you for shouting that out. And if you do watch it, you will be very used to Grant's voice.
Yeah, you will be, yes. My soothing voice. Actually, I want to give a shout out. I hope he's watching. I think his name is Doug. I had somebody reach out to me on my Reddit profile and send me a message because I had commented something.
You have a Reddit profile?
Of course I have. I'm on Reddit all the time. Well, not anymore because I work too freaking much. But yes, Reddit. But I had commented like 6 years ago about some real estate stuff, and this dude found me and was asking questions, and I told him about this, and he was like, dude, you got yourself a new follower. So if you are watching from Canada, good to see you. Glad you're joining in. Cool. Fun stuff. All right.
Anyways, get back to it.
Moving back. So we've got a 22-year loan, or a loan is for $73,000 with 22 years left on it at 5%. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to calculate that out so that we can see what that payment would be to the bank. This is the 10B2 calculator. I really recommend that you go and watch on the Propelio Academy because it is free, and it's just propelio.com/academy. Sign up. You'll put your email in, but everything is free from there. In my owner financing course, episode 4 or chapter 4 is a tutorial on the 10B2 calculator. We may do this in a Grant Teach Me Something in the future, but until then, you can watch a good tutorial on it there. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to put that loan in. So we know that we've got 22 years left on it. It is at 5%, and it had $73,000 left on the mortgage. So their payment is $456.45. Okay, so I'm going to put payment. And I'm going to put 456. I'm not going to worry about the change for today's example.
You know what's funny, though? I don't know how many times I've seen you whip out the 10B2 calculator, but all I remember off the top of my head is future value is always zero.
Future value is always zero.
I could not tell you how to use that, but I do know that's zero. Maybe I'm not paying attention.
And what is the
My
payment?
bad.
The payment is always, can you answer that one? The payment is always negative. Payment is always negative.
Okay.
That one, okay, so if you're using the 10B2, that's going to be how you're screwing it up, is you forget to make the payment negative. So I harp on that a lot, but you're still going to mess it up. So $456 a month. That's what their payment is to the seller. So you want to buy this house.
Right.
You want to buy this subject to. So the way that you're going to run that is you're going to say, yes, seller,
I will make payments on your behalf.
I will make payments on your behalf. I want to buy your house that you owe $73,000 on. $73,000 is what I'm going to buy it for, and you're going to give me the warranty deed. I will become the owner of the property, and then I will continue to make that $456 payment a month to your bank on your behalf. That's how you're buying subject to. I'm buying your house subject to the underlying lien staying in place as is. So their name.
And before anybody asks, why would anybody do this? We've done so many videos on that. Just jump in.
Yeah, just dig through like last season because they do. We're not going to focus on why somebody would do it right now because they do.
They do.
So let's kind of build this out a little bit. Let's look at this in a little bit different of a view. So our seller is orange. Our seller is orange, and we are blue. Okay. So our seller, oops, of course, and then I don't even do the right color. Orange.
Because it makes a difference.
Our seller, it'll be helpful to tie it all together, I think, is going to owe the bank
$564 a month.
Right? $546 a month. Our seller has a warranty deed, or I'm sorry, a deed of trust and a note in our seller's name. That deed of trust is what creates the lien position. Okay? Now, lien position is very important in this situation because lien position determines a lot about what we're able to do and how we're doing the things that we are. Lien position works like this. Well, actually, do you want to explain us lien position?
What do you mean?
As far as why first lien position matters?
It's the first person. It's the first bank that says, "Hey, I have a lien on this bank or a lien on this house." So whether that be $1, $1 million, it doesn't matter. That's what that is. So I think this is the whole rabbit hole you're going for is, say in this situation you do own or finance it, the first lien is still always going to be that bank, and any underlying liens, like say you into the person you're financing to, would be, or say the loan you get from somebody to make a purchase, that would be number 2, and then the lien to the homeowner would be lien number 3.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for explaining that
I
so
wasn't
well. That was
sure
perfect.
where
That
you're
was great.
going with
no,
that.
You did a great job. So that is, and I talked about this a little bit last week too. There's going to be a couple of things here that just bear with me because I know if you're just learning this at the beginning, you may be like, this kind of starts to push the boundaries of what you would care about.
Can't I just put a bandit sign to wholesale it?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But trust me on this. I want you to understand this stuff because these foundations that we're laying right now are going to be what give you the exciting, cool stuff that we can do in future videos.
And of course, Daniel says it so much more eloquently: first lien, first paid.
First lien is first paid. A lien on a property just says when that property sells, these people are going to get paid in the order that they recorded a lien. That is the only thing that matters, okay? The other thing that matters, or the only thing that matters in order of payment. So if this property were to sell, first lien gets paid, second lien gets paid, blah, 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 blah. If there's more, that's when the seller gets the money. The really important part about these lien positions is that if the first lien forecloses, all of the other future liens get completely and entirely wiped out, and they get zero, nada, nilch, nothing. So those are two really important things to understand about this lien position and owner financing as we build to get some of our cool stuff.
And just because I feel like I need to show my creativeness and that I do know stuff, that statement right there is why you can get creative in this business, to where if you have a relationship with a seller and they don't mind being foreclosed on, and maybe you could do some, side cash for keys, whatever, they sell you their couch for like 10 grand, whatever, and you can purchase the first lien note, foreclose on them, wipe out second, third, fourth, and you just got a kick-ass property for like 20 grand or something.
Yeah, there is some
That's
creative.
the creative side of this business.
I used that strategy to net $110,000 on a house a couple of years ago. it can work. You've got to be very careful. You've got to do a lot of things the right way. So here we are in this deal. Our seller, Orange Guy, has a note and a deed of trust, which is first lien to their bank. We, investors, I'm going to put you again, are going to continue to make their payments on their behalf. So I'm going to draw a line here, and I'm going to write payments on their behalf. Now, as you and I are talking, oftentimes you're going to hear me slip up and say, taking over on payments. Taking over on payments is something that I will say to another investor when we're describing this, but we never want to say take over on payments to our seller.
Right.
Because why?
Because then you are leaving yourself open for the misunderstanding of the no word, which is assumption. The assumption of the loan. And that's not what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You are not assuming the loan.
Correct.
Or whatever technical term that comes with that.
No, you're right. That's absolutely it. So we never want to have any kind of implication to our seller that they're not going to have responsibility on this loan anymore.
Right.
Because in a subject to purchase, the loan remains in their name. If they go and get their credit pulled, guess what's going to show up?
All these sexy payments made on their behalf.
Hey, there you go. That is how we turn a negative into a positive. That's one of your ways to, what's it called? Not a retort, like when you're combating like in a negotiation or something. You know what I'm talking about? Whatever.
Yeah.
The thing that you say back to somebody who has a problem with something. So they're going to say,
that's pretty bad when we kick them. It's like, it starts...
Rebuttal! Yeah.
Thank you, Trey.
Okay.
Trey on the cameraman.
That's a good rebuttal for them, is because they'll be like, the payments are going to remain in your name. If a mortgage if you're going to get your credit pulled, this is going to show up on your credit report. But guess what, seller? Right now, you're 6 months behind on your payments. What we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to catch those payments up. Okay? Mm-hmm. We're going to pay that 6 months. We're going to catch those payments up so that the bank is happy and they don't foreclose on you. And then we're going to make on-time payments every month moving forward. So guess what's going to show up on your credit report is on-time payments being made on a mortgage. It actually helps rebuild their credit. Whereas one of their other options, one of the things that they may say if you're trying to pitch subject to them, is they may be like, well, I'm just going to file bankruptcy. Okay, filing bankruptcy does keep you in the house, but it kills your credit, and you will not be able to buy another house for 5 to 7 more years after that.
And that's a temporary solution to a long-term problem.
Mm-hmm. So by selling the house, maybe you can give them a little bit of money to move in someplace else. They can go rent someplace for a while. We're going to help rebuild their credit over time as we've caught this up. And then they're able to buy a house that they can actually afford in the future, right? So that can be helpful for them. So we're never going to say taking over on payments. We're always going to say we're going to make payments on their behalf so that they understand that this loan is remaining in their name. Now, another piece of the loan remaining in their name, another thing that they may have issue with is, well, what if I want to go buy another house? Mm-hmm. Okay, if this is going to show up on my credit, what if I want to go buy another house? And I will say, you should never promise anything that you can't promise. We can only do what we can do. If you don't have control over a situation, don't act like you do. This is one of those situations you don't have control over. You don't have control if they're going to get approved for another loan, okay? But what we can say is historically what's happening. So my favorite phrase that I use all the time is, well, historically speaking, this is what we've seen, but I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know if lending laws are going to change in the future, what's going to happen in the future. But what's happened in the past is, it used to be, up until about 2015, that if you sold a house subject to, your underlying lien bank would, they would count 1/3 of whatever that payment was towards the seller's debt to income ratio until a year had passed where you were paying the loan for them, and then they would drop it off and not count any of it towards their debt to income ratio if they were trying to get a new loan. Does that make sense?
Yes and no.
Okay. Do I need to explain debt to income ratio?
Yeah, but I think right now, let's pause for a second,
okay,
so we can cut to commercial, but then also form it up and be like, let's not make Ryan look like an idiot. And like we could talk
it's really
off screen.
hard to do, yeah.
But anyway, so keep the comments
coming. To make
coming.
you look like an idiot, for the record, not to not make you look like.
Well, if we want to play that game, let's go. Now, so keep the comments coming, keep those questions coming. As always, Grant teaches something. This is a dialogue. Grant has a wealth of knowledge, and let's extract that. So we'll be right back, guys. So we were talking about, the downfall of a Sub2, which is one of the rebuttals. Or no, not what's the opposite of
I know,
rebuttal?
right? Like the complaint.
I know what the complaint would
Yeah.
be. Well, what if I want to buy a house in the future? And you said the answer to that, the rebuttal would be, well, I don't have a crystal ball, but up until recently, whatever, a third of the payment for a year will go towards their whatever, and then it drops off.
Right.
What do you mean by that? Let's get into that.
Yeah,
because
so-
I'm clearly confused.
And this is a really good thing to get into because while it's not like we're not directly talking Sub2, if you want to buy houses Sub2, you need to be able to explain this to your seller. It's a very important part of the negotiation process. So they're going to ask, I want to buy another house. You're going to say, okay, so historically speaking, a third of your payment, let's say that their payment to their bank was $900, not $422, because it's
Right.
easier for me to split that. Their payment was $900 a month. You're going to say, up until about 2015, your new lender would count $300 towards your debt to income ratio when qualifying you for this next loan. A debt to income ratio is looking at, if you look at all of your gross income before taxes, and you look at all of your long-term debt, car payments, house payments, that kind of stuff, not like cell phone payments isn't a debt, but you look at your long-term debt and you compare that as a percentage, that's your debt to income ratio. Up until about 2015, they would count a third of it for a year, a third of the payment for a year, and then drop it off and not count any of it if you were proving that somebody else was paying that payment for you.
So you keep referencing 2015. It's, I don't know if you know this, we're in October of 2018.
Yes.
So why is that data relevant if we're already in 2018?
The reason is because part of the negotiation is that we build the need and then solve it, right? That's what happened up until about 2015. Since 2015, what we are seeing is that the new lender doesn't count any of the subject to loan against the borrower, against our seller's debt to income ratio at all. From day one.
And then you said earlier, if they could prove somebody else is paying for
If they prove somebody else is paying it. So what we want to tell our sellers, if that's one of their concerns, and even if it's not their concern, what's one of the things we want to mention to them is, if you ever want to go out and get another loan, let us know so that we can provide your new lender with the closing documents and proof that we've been the one paying this mortgage on your behalf, so that they don't credit that against you.
So here's a hypothetical that has nothing to do with this, but I just thought about it. What if they're going to the same lender they used before?
I know, I encourage them not to do that.
And then all of a sudden, you get the due on sale clause, which we don't need to go into because we've
we'll
exhausted
get to it today.
that. Oh,
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
But I mean, so you encourage them to go somewhere else.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I do encourage them. Like, if their loan is at Bank of America, I encourage them to go to Wells Fargo or somebody else. But the thing is like I mentioned Wells Fargo, I actually legit know one of the higher ups. I say no, like have met one of the legit higher ups of
At your country club?
At my country club, of their underwriting department at Wells Fargo, and they've had a memo from corporate that came down that instructed them to, if somebody else is paying those payments on their behalf, not to count any of it towards the DTI. So that's good news for us, right?
DTI being?
Debt to income ratio.
You got it.
But that's why we have to be very clear about historically speaking versus future, because at any point in time, that could change.
Right.
That might change in the future. And so the thing that I tell my sellers is that I don't have a crystal ball. Historically speaking, this is what it is. Come talk to me if you do want to go get another house so that we can give you every chance. And I also can't say that you're going to be able to get another loan, but what I can say is, historically speaking, if my seller could have gotten a loan without this in the picture, they've had no problem getting a loan with this in the picture.
And also, I mean, and this might be an obvious rebuttal, but it's like, I can't tell you what the future will hold, but I can tell you definitely, without this, you will not be able to get a house.
Totally.
Like, if you get foreclosed on, if you get bankrupted, whatever, get back, you know what I mean. Yeah.
And the way to phrase that I've done in the past that I really enjoy saying is that exactly explaining that and then saying, so your worst case scenario is just that you end up right back here in the same position. You know what I mean? Like, where you have a house that was being foreclosed on and, you know, whatever. Like, that's your worst case scenario, so you're fine. So there's some rebuttals. There's some things you might hear. Now, if we go back to our picture here, what I've written is that we've got a first lien with a deed of trust and a note to the bank, and we're going to just say that this is, you know, Bank of Arkansas, and they have a note and deed of trust with our seller. When we buy this house, our seller is going to give us a warranty deed. What does the warranty deed do? Gives us ownership of the property, right?
I knew that one. He didn't let me answer. Like the one time I know an answer, he won't let me answer.
I'm just trying. All right, so we get warranty deed. We become the owners of the house. We are paying on the behalf of our seller, and we are not just asking our sellers to trust us. What we are going to do is they give us the warranty deed, which gives us ownership of the property. In return, we are giving them a DTSP, which stands for Deed of Trust to Secure Performance. Now, on a normal deed of trust, like the one that we see between Joe homeowner and our bank, normal deed of trust is referencing a note and saying, hey, there's a note involved here that says that Joe's going to pay $456 a month every month, and if he doesn't, we're going to take it back. But look at what we've done in Subject 2. We haven't gotten a note from our seller, have we? What we've done is we've promised to do something for our seller. We have promised to perform. We have said that we are going to make those payments on their behalf. That's what we're promising, not a note. So our deed of trust is a deed of trust to secure that performance. That's a big, long way of saying our seller is protected. If we don't make the payments like we said we were going to make the payments, the seller gets to foreclose and take the house back from us. Okay? And this is a very important part of our negotiation process with that seller, because for a seller to feel comfortable with giving you their house subject to, they need to have that bit of security that says, look, these guys are going to pay, and if they don't, I get the house back. And the way that you're going to pose that to them is just like, that response that I gave you a second ago of, hey, your worst case scenario is you're right back where you started.
Right.
Well, it's going to be very similar to that in that I'm going to say, look, you're $6,000 behind on your house right now. I'm going to come in. I'm going to catch up your payments. I'm going to continue to make your payments on your behalf going forward, which is going to build your credit, help you out on that case. If, and this has never happened, I've never had a seller need to take a house from me, but if all of my buyers are watching the Cowboys play and a meteor hits and literally nobody makes their payment for 4 months and I have to default on this loan, you get to foreclose on me and get this house back. Even if I don't make one payment, you can foreclose and get this house back. And oh, guess what? At that point in time, I will have caught your payments up. I will have been paying for however long, 4, 5, 6 years. So we've brought your house or your principal value down. Well, real estate almost always goes up, right? It's going to have its dips, but it gets back up.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, your house will be worth more. You will owe less on it. You will have been caught up on payments. We will have built your credit over time. You get to take the house back from me.
And oh yeah, I'm a real estate investor. I'm not an idiot. I'm in this business to make money. Therefore, if by me putting money into your property, catching you up on payments, maybe doing a little rehab, there's no way in hell I'm going to not keep this house. There's no way in hell I'm going to let this go and go back to you. So that doesn't make business sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to tell them that, and we're going to say the hard part in this industry is finding the house. I can find buyers all day. I've got the crews to fix it up. I've got the whole systems going. The hardest part about this business is finding the house. It makes no sense for me to lose this house when this is what we're working all day to get, right? But if we did, your worst case scenario means that you have a house that owes less, is worth more, got everything caught up, and I came in and did all the rehab on it. So when your worst case scenario is better than the situation that you're sitting in right now, why would you not move forward with this?
Right.
That is a great closing line. I love that negotiation tip. If your worst case scenario is better than the situation that you're sitting in right now, why would you not move forward?
Nugget.
Negotiation nugget right there.
Boom.
So that is how Subject 2 works. And just to draw it out, because I want you guys to pay attention to this because it's going to matter next week and when we get into more advanced theories, is that this DTSP technically is setting up a second lien position. First lien is the bank, second lien is Joe to us, okay? And that's what Subject 2 looks like.
And just to throw in other comments here is there's a lot of little nuances, like you got to get the power of attorneys, because the only way you can communicate with Bank of Arkansas in this situation is if you have, if you're basically representing Joe Orange seller guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
yeah,
know?
you do. The contracts are very, very important to have good contracts.
And that's why
for
you
this.
need good mentors. That's why you need to have good attorneys on your team, which is not us. And just because I know on my first owner finance Sub2 type deal, I'm in communication with the bank, and yeah, we bought this house. No, don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, nothing happened, but
Sure, but it could
again,
have.
it could have.
And the reason why we're worried about saying that is, and this is how I want. Well, actually, before we get into that, do we have some questions that we want to hop into? If so, we can.
Let's
Now would be a
look.
good spot, and then we'll get into due on sale clause after this. Matter of fact, do we have another break scheduled up, or?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I mean,
I couldn't remember if we did 1 or 2 breaks.
We could. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's a.
We're flowing.
It's our show. We can flow.
We flow.
That kind of rhymed.
It's our show.
It's our show. We can flow. Jaime was basically saying bank loans pay off much faster,
Yes.
and then yours mows into first position after the release of lien. That's actually a good point, and I would like for you to go in depth of why that gets paid off much faster.
Yeah. So,
Then,
actually.
in the wrap situation where the
Exactly.
second lien is yours.
Yeah, exactly. So, for the record, that is actually on my schedule for going into like a more in-depth
Jaime.
episode specifically on that. But the short of it is, hey, if we're paying 5% on this underlying mortgage, but we sell it to somebody and they're paying 9.5%, the loan to the bank is being paid off much more quickly than the loan to our buyer, which is getting 9.5% interest, which is what allows our net worth to grow over time. One of the things that rentals give you that owner financing does not is an appreciation value of the property. Okay, but it's a mistake to think that you're not going to have a raised net worth over time with an owner finance, because oftentimes people will say, well, if I sell it with owner financing, I'm locked in there and the money never grows. Mm-hmm. But that's actually untrue, because it does grow because you're paying your underlying debt at such a lower interest rate that over time that money position grows and your net worth does get higher and higher and higher at a pretty fast pace.
Yeah, and in that situation, like with a 22-year whatever, if you sold it for $75,000 at
Right.
30, you're paying 22 years.
So I can give a real quick example that's going to probably give you a good insight as to what that means.
I mean, might as well rabbit hole it out. But you know, after 22 years, you're making like $100, and then for 8 years you're making a lot more than 100.
Right. So the end of the story here is that on that 22-year loan at 5% for $73,000, total outgoing, if you look at this third blue number from the top, total outgoing payment is $120,500. Okay, most realistically, this house we would have like a $75,000 or $80,000 loan on it. But let's say $80,000 loan. Oops, we have an $80,000 loan to our buyer. So we sell it for $90,000,
you
get a
got 10
$10,000 down payment. Their loan is $80,000 at 9.5% for 30 years. The money that we will collect will be $242,100. So
Which is more than 120.
So you've made $122,000 on a house that only had $8,000 of equity in it.
Right. And again, this is, and obviously we're talking about 30 years, so this is a long-term play, but that's what all this is. It's a long-term play and the potential for money.
Right.
Had a dude have a couple questions. How much did you pay to buy the house, the behind payments plus what? John, that's a good question because, again, like with anything in real estate, there's a variety of ways to answer that. Mm-hmm. Grant, his answer is probably nothing. I ain't paying nothing. Whereas if you're just trying to get the house and be creative with it, I know the last Sub2 deal we did, we actually paid the seller $27,000. But that's just a creative way because the wholesaler involved, whatever, maybe paid a little bit more. And it wasn't the best deal, but if you sub-2'd it, guess what? Now you have a good deal.
Sure.
So in that situation, there was no behind payments, but we paid $25,000, $27,000 to the seller. So it's just about being creative. Can you ding anymore?
Sorry, I have this on Do Not Disturb, but my personal mentor student.
I don't care. I'm in a rant. I'm going. But it just depends on what the deal is. Sub2 is a tool in your toolbox. It can be used a lot, like that's primarily your model, but guess what? Grant also flips. Guess what? Grant also wholesales. Mm-hmm. So Sub2
and I also buy with cash and owner finance it out, right? Sub2 is just a tool to buy properties.
A tool in the toolbox.
Right.
And the whole point of Propelio Academy is to equip you, that's the good word, equip, with as much tools in your toolbox as possible.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I answered that question, but I think I just answered that question with you do what you do to get the deal.
And we've got plenty, we've got plenty of videos to come, and on the Propelio Academy site, where it walks you through, like, okay, my seller needs 30 grand, right? We'll talk about that. That's a good topic to talk about. You can do anything you need to do to get the deal.
This is a good question from Estad down in Houston on YouTube. Do you ever do minor repairs to secure a larger down payment, or do you sell it as is?
Totally do full rehabs on all of mine.
Do you really?
I do. I do full
didn't know
rehabs
that.
on
Is
all
that
my
a new
properties. So about 2014, I started doing rehabs on every property I did.
Okay.
A lot of people. So what happened was, when I got into the business, I didn't have money. Right? We talked about that. So I would buy the house. I would put it under a 60-day option period when I was acquiring it, and during that 60 days, I would go find somebody to buy it from me with owner financing for more money with a large down payment. They would either buy it as is for a discount, or I would say, once we purchase it, I'll put the money in and fix it because I needed their down payment to get that done, whatever that might be. So as is was totally good for a while. About 2014 for me, I started turning around. Buyers were getting more. Actually, I think I take that back. It was 2015, early part of 2015. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Buyers were getting pickier, and they wanted to see that kind of retail-ready property. So I started doing retail-ready rehabs on all of mine because it does secure a larger down payment. It does secure a larger purchase price. And I know that if I ever have to take that property back from them through foreclosure, it's probably not going to cost me that much to get it repaired at that point in time because it will only be 3, 4, 5 years old.
So let's go down that rabbit hole for a brief second because, like, I know, like most investors, you're probably the same. You ain't using your own cash to rehab it, are you? You're getting a second lien, a third lien, or whatever lien to do it. So what does that look like? We don't have to go too far because I know that could be its own episode. But
yeah, private money, man. Private money makes this world turn. And so speaking of which, if you have an IRA or a 401k that you want to be making good returns on in a secured way, this is a good way to do it. You can always, contact me or any of these other guys that are active out there in the business. But what happens is if I run into a house like this, say I wanted to buy Joe's house.
First lien is
$73,000
to
Bank of
whoever,
Arkansas.
But so as an IRA person, they may be a little, especially if they're new, they're like, well, I want to be first lien. Well, guess what? You can't be.
Right. So what this is perfect for, and I'll give you this tip too, if you're even searching for private money or if you're this person that fits this criteria, this is perfect for the person that has $40,000 to $75,000 in their IRA or their savings somewhere. They want to get into real estate. Maybe you're learning how to do this stuff right now. Like maybe that's why you're watching this video or going to the REI events or any of that kind of stuff. 50 grand isn't really enough to buy and rehab a house, right? It can be, but I typically look for 80 to 250 houses, ARVs. But what 50 grand is great for is, hey, this house is owed $73,000. I need $6,000 to catch it up on back payments, and I need $15,000 to put the repairs into it. Therefore, I need $21,000 to make this deal work. So if you've got 50 grand, we can do a couple deals like that with your money where you're going to make 8, 9, 10% on that cash. We put it into a second lien position that allows us to catch up the payments and do the rehab on the property and then sell it for full price.
And disclaimer yet again, not a financial planner, not an attorney. That being said, my personal advice, not Propelio, would be that if you are going to be funding somebody on a second or a third lien, make sure you trust that person. Make sure that investor is reputable. Make sure it's someone like Grant or a Daniel, somebody that their reputation is far more valuable to them than the 20 grand on the lien.
Yeah, and to that point, nothing, so that was to the investor, right? And absolutely, because second lien position, what did we say earlier? If a first lien forecloses, second lien gets wiped out,
correct,
right? I know that if any of my seconds to any of my investors get wiped out, they're getting paid. Because if you don't pay one investor, you're never getting private money again. I don't care what position you're in, you're getting paid. So that part is to the investor. This part is to the person needing the private money. You have to make your top priority paying your private money. If you miss a payment with any private money lender ever, you're screwed. You're not going to get another private loan from anybody.
If this was like 1980, pre-Facebook, pre-social media, you might be able to go to a different city, but Facebook, social media,
it'll follow you. And this is a small world, and your reputation king.
So, Matt Smith, if we lease option out with a third lien position, couldn't you take a low interest loan of 3% to sale to a third party owner finance at 9%?
So, again, next week we will be talking about
Got it.
wraparounds
Cool.
and lease options. So we'll address that one next week because I do want to try and keep concisely
Matt,
on our
watch
point.
next week, sir.
Yeah, tune back in.
John, if the house ARV is 400 and the seller is 20 behind and the loan still has 20 years to go, what is the final number? What do you mean by final number?
Yeah, I don't know. There's
Like what you would offer them or what you would try to sell it at?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Because in that, it's okay. You would have to do a lot of math to figure out, because if it's a 30-year loan, 10 years off the 400,000, 20,000 behind, I don't know what the final number is.
Oh, are you saying final number like once you catch it up? Is that what he's asking? Like once you
don't
catch
know.
it up, what the loan balance is going to be? Let me actually address that though, because even if that's not what your
I'll
question is.
let you read the question
Okay.
because maybe semantics I messed up.
Cool. Well, actually, hold on just a second. I want to go into this point just in case this, and then I'll read it because otherwise I'll forget. So this is a really good point. Even if it's not your question, I do want to address this because this is going to be very important for many people. When you are catching payments up on a subject to mortgage, one of the most misunderstood bits about this is, let's say, so we can use as numbers, right? They owe 40 or 400,000 and they're 20,000 behind.
400 was ARV, 20 was behind, and 20 years left on the note.
Oh, okay, but we don't know what they owe.
We don't know
Okay.
we don't know what the payoff is.
Let's say that they owe 300 and they're $20,000 behind.
Mm-hmm.
The question that many people get wrong, most 95% of them is that, does that mean that their loan balance is really 320? Or does that mean, so like when you put in the $20,000, the loan balance to the bank will be 300? Or does that mean when you put in the $20,000 to the bank, their new loan balance will be 280? Does that make sense? Many people, I want to see your votes. Which do you think it is? If you have a $300,000 loan balance and you've got $20,000 behind, does that mean that they really owe 320 and you're going to catch them up with 20,000 bucks and then your loan balance to the bank is going to be 300?
I know the answer to this.
Or does it mean that they owe 300 and when you pay the $20,000, their new loan balance is going to be 280?
We talked about this on episode 27 of, no, I don't know.
I was
what
about to say, I was
episode
like, dang, that's
I don't
impressive.
know. We talked about this because I did the wrong answer before.
So, do you remember what the right answer is?
The answer is you don't know, but you can do the math to figure it out because they may be behind 20, but you don't know how long that it's taken to get to 20 plus interest rates.
Right.
So it may be behind 20, but the 20 literally could be 308 could be the payoff. It could be 306 the payoff. So the answer is you don't know until you do the math.
So let's look at our.
Is that somewhat right?
It is. Yeah, it is. The thing is it's actually neither. Neither is the right answer. So the thing is, but that's what you said. That's what you said. Well, it's what I'm acting like you said.
Cool.
So
I was right. That's all we needed.
let's say that we have a
$300,000
$300,000 loan. Let's say they have 20 years left on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's 240 left on it.
There's a $400,000 ARV.
Yeah, 400,000. So that means that their payment each month is $19.79.
Right.
Okay. Now, if we look at the amortization schedule, let me put it this way, and I'm going to try and go through this quickly. We'll dive into this a little bit more deeply. I'll try to remember to do this on another episode because we probably could spend an episode on this. Each payment is made up of several things, right? Each payment is made up of PITI. A payment to a bank is made up of principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So if their principal is $500, their interest is $500, same thing. That would mean that their total payment going out is what, $2,000, right?
Right.
If they're 6 months behind, so I guess they would be 20 or 10 payments behind at this point in time if they're 20,000 behind, right? If we're saying that they're $20,000 behind, that would mean that they would be 10,000 behind, and each one of the, or 10 payments behind, each one of these categories would now be $5,000 that's owed. You follow me? Which equals $20,000 behind. If we catch that payment up, the only part of this payment that is going to go towards principal is.
I'm not listening, but I did find the episode. It was episode 28.
Oh,
I was damn close.
Nice.
Damn close. I'll put it in the comments.
So, the only thing that's touching that principal is the principal portion. Therefore, if you caught this payment up in this example, it would be the new loan balance would be $295.
Right.
All of the rest of that back payment was going towards interest, taxes, and insurance that they already owed. It doesn't touch the principal. So now let me read that question and see if it's if that addressed it or if we can maybe hammer it in a different way. But that, what we just talked about, is a very important part.
And I do, John, this is a funny question because he was asking if Grant teaches this. And the reason I think that's funny is I'm like, isn't he teaching it right now? But I don't want to sound like a dick. But
yes, I do. I do personal mentorships. CreativeCashFlow.com is where these Wednesday Grant Teach Me Somethings are a partnership between CreativeCashFlow.com and Propelio.com.
Propelio!
Because we share a vision, and that vision is that education should be more than it is. Right now, there's a lot of gurus out there that either A, aren't doing it, B, haven't done it since the 90s, or C, suck at training it. And we think that there should be something more than that. So CreativeCashFlow.com, our slogan is, it's where investors who want more get it, right?
This is a slogan?
Yeah, we have a slogan. Where investors who want more get it. It's even being trademarked. Check
What?
that out. We fancy. So we've got the Academy on there. I do a live Q&A every Monday night, and I do personal mentoring. So if you're looking for more hand-holding from me or for more training from me, you can look there. Or at Propelio.com/academy, I have an entire module on owner financing that goes through all of this stuff in depth.
Subtle plug.
Super subtle plug. Okay, if the house ARV is $400 and the seller is $20,000 behind and the loan still has 20 years to go, what is the final number? Yeah, I don't think we have enough information for that to be, but I'm glad because that queued up something important to talk about.
We have another question. How easy is it, and this is from Sydney, how easy is it for someone with a lien on an owner finance home to foreclose on that lien if the end buyer is paying on time with no problems? The answer is you can't.
Yeah, if somebody's paying, so maybe the question is in the wraparound scenario, because if the end buyer is paying on, so how easy is it for someone with a lien on an owner finance home to foreclose on that lien if the end buyer is paying on time, no problem? So I think the question is, we buy it subject to, and then we wrap it. So we sell it with owner financing. Our owner financing buyer is making their payments, but we aren't. Can the seller, Joe homeowner, foreclose on us still? And the answer is yes. They can foreclose on us, and if they foreclose on us,
Well, how can they foreclose on
because
it?
we have an agreement with them that says that if we aren't making the payment, they get to foreclose.
If you're not making the payments.
If we aren't making the payment, but our end buyer is,
got it.
Joe still gets to foreclose on us. Because all that matters in this lien position right here is that I'm paying the bank like I said I would.
Right.
That's part of the risk of taking a second lien position like our end buyer is.
What if everybody's making payments? You can't
Then
foreclose.
if everybody's current, you cannot foreclose. Unless something else in the deed of trust is broken. For instance, in the deed of trust, they have to keep the house in repair. If they've got a broken roof and they're not replacing it, that's a foreclosable offense.
On the buyer side.
On anybody's side, depending on what the deed of trust says,
Do you rent the house to someone else? Do you sell the
can.
house? Do you refinance?
So that's
the answer is yes to all.
That's exactly why we're only talking Sub2 today, and I'm trying to push wraparound to the next week because Sub2 is an acquisition model.
Yeah.
Subject to is a way to get into houses. If you want to buy Sub2 and then rent it, or buy Sub2 and flip it, or buy Sub2 and wrap it, you get to do that.
Right.
Subject to is an acquisition model. If I'm in an area, for those of you who are in DFW, like South Dallas, Cedar Hill, DeSoto, it's really hard to find people that have 10% down payments in that area. So I don't even try to do wraparounds down there. If I get a subject to down there, I'm typically putting it up on the MLS market and selling retail. Or they do have a strong rental market, so that might be someplace that you would want to hold as a rental, right? But again, if you are selling with Sub2, you're losing money. You want to acquire with Sub2 and then do anything you want with it.
Cool. Let's see, Grant, do you teach us? Yes. Walter, good to see you, buddy. Let's see, comments.
So while you're looking up some questions, I'll go ahead and answer the due on sale clause question. Which hasn't come up yet, but is important to know. And this will be my last point for it. So get your questions in right now. If you've got questions, we'll be wrapping up after this. So the due on sale clause is really the one risk that your seller is taking in this situation. The due on sale clause is in every mortgage, and what it says is that if the seller sells any interest of their ownership in that property, the bank has the right, not the obligation, but the option to ask for the remainder of that loan to be due all at once. That's the due on sale clause. So what we're doing absolutely triggers the due on sale clause. Now notice I'm using the word trigger and not violate. The due on sale clause does not say, don't sell this house. If you do, we're going to demand the money. It says if you sell this house, we have the option to ask for the rest of the money due. So we are absolutely triggering the due on sale clause by buying subject to. However, my office and I guess so Scott and I split, so I guess I can't say my office anymore, but we have seen through my partnerships more than 10,000 of these deals go through. Fewer than 10 due on sale clauses have ever been called. In the real world, what does the bank want?
Money.
They want their money. They want their payments. So historically speaking, as long as the bank's getting their payments, they're happy, right? My joke is, if they wanted real estate, they'd be called Coldwell Banker, not Bank of America. They want their payments. They don't want to take the house back from you. So as long as payments are being made and you do your insurance the right way, you should be fine. But that's historically speaking, and they absolutely have the right to call it. So you need to disclose that to your buyer. You need to disclose that to your seller. You need to understand that going in and just let everybody know, if this happens, it's all hands on deck. We're going to all work to fix it. I will tell you, in those less than 10 or fewer than 10 that have ever been called, none of which actually ended up being a foreclosure. Everything was able to get solved in one way or another, okay? So just understand, it's there, it's very real, but in the real world, it's not something that we worry about super hard. And I'm not a subscriber of, well, just put everything into a trust. While that does add a veil of protection, which we'll talk about in another episode, but just addressing if you're thinking about that in your head, it does add a veil. It is not a 100% solution. And if you ever run into a guru that's trying to sell you on a program talking about that trusts are the solution to subject to and due on sale clauses, all that kind of stuff, they are gurus. They're trying to get money from you. It is not a 100% solution. Don't buy it. People really like to leverage trusts because not everybody understands trusts, and so it makes them sound fancy, and you don't know enough to combat it. So therefore, you think that they're super smart and they get your money.
So I think we're wrapping up. Thank you for everybody watching. If you do have some final questions, get them in there. One thing that Propelio, Grant, Creative Cashflow, myself, Daniel, we're very adamant about staying engaged in the comment section. So whether that's you're watching on October 7th, 2018, or you're watching next year, if you drop a comment, drop a question, it'll get answered. As far as what's going on today, if you're in Dallas, Kristen Gertz and Bay Mountain Capital, they've got the REI Social Club.
That's a good club to go to.
It's an awesome one to go to. If you're local, you should definitely go. It's a great opportunity to network. If you're down in Houston, you've got Jet Lending Super Duper Meetup. I don't know what the name of it is. I just called it the Super
Houston
Duper one.
knows how to throw a party at their meetups.
So I actually rented out a little Ford Transit, and we've got a group of people, Propelio, going to go down there and party up in Houston and drive right back. So tomorrow morning I might be like a zombie, but and then tomorrow, which is Thursday, we have the Iron Heel Show, which is going to be the second time we've done it, but the first time we've called it that. So we're excited for that.
Cool.
As far as Creative Cashflow, who is that? What are they? And what can they offer me?
Creative Cashflow, where investors who want more get it. CreativeCashFlow.com, that's where I do my education side. I have a module full start to finish on Propelio.com/academy on how to do owner financing. We have a lot more content to come. I've got a negotiations masterclass that's releasing either this week or next week on CreativeCashFlow.com, and I do a live Q&A every Monday night for my students on CreativeCashFlow.com. And I do personal mentoring. So if you like my teaching style, you like what we've got to offer here, please go check me out on CreativeCashFlow.com, become a member, stupid cheap, lifetime memberships. I really want to see the whole industry get brought up together, and that's why we're doing this.
And as far as Propelio.com, what we offer, because it's surprising how many people don't know what we do. Propelio.com, the only way we actually get income is through our subscription-based service, which if you're an investor and you need access to MLS comps, guess what? Propelio.com.
And CRM is great on there too.
Yeah.
I know that.
Propelio.com.
Yeah, Propelio.com.
Yeah. Where do you go if you need off-market lead lists?
I use this. Have you ever heard of Propelio.com?
I haven't. Who are they?
They're this place that I get my lead lists from. Cool. That's where I market, man. That's where I buy my houses.
Also deal alerts. You know where you can get a deal alert?
You know, I've heard of this place. It starts with a P. Is it
Propelio.com. Yeah.
Propelio.com.
And then also investor-friendly websites. Yeah. So, if
really
you need those services, go for it. If you're brand new to investing, hold off. Don't pay for us yet. Wait until you have an idea of how to do this, and then join in. We do a 7-day free trial, no credit card needed, so it's truly a risk-free trial. Go in there, poke around, and check it out.
And I'll be completely honest. I mean, I have MLS access. I don't log into it anymore. I can't even remember what my password is because the comping system on Propelio is far superior, especially on mobile. And it's what my team uses to run all our leads through.
And John, that's a great question, and that's not a plant, but he's asking, please mention again the mentorship program for Grant and Propelio. Propelio actually does not have a mentorship program. We have our Propelio Academy, which can be found at propelio.com/academy, and that is our answer to the guru that we were subtly talking about earlier, where we're trying to give you as much training at zero cost to you as possible. And there's forums in there where you can ask questions where the community will answer them. But our effort and our goal is to provide you with quality education like Grant here, like Daniel, and like several people in the industry coming in to give you quality education for that
for no cost
no cost to you. And the forums are there. One thing that excited us is, because we just launched this a couple weeks ago, is the community is already starting to answer questions.
That's awesome. I love
so
it.
like somebody's like, how do you do this? And Joe Schmo, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah. So
I love it.
We want you to be active in the forums. We want that. And Creative Cash Flow, we just talked about, but you can wrap it up real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do mentorships. I totally get that, yes, Online
Hand-holding,
Academy
you need it.
is awesome, but sometimes you want to kind of skip steps A through whatever in and kind of start later on, A through 7, and start kind of so my position is with personal mentoring. I don't bring everybody on that applies, but I want you to apply if you think this might be for you, if you think you want that. And if you're the type of person that would be successful without me, I'm going to get you successful more quickly. That's basically what it boils down to.
And if you ever hear anybody from Propelio.com or Propelio talking about, gurus and screw the guru. There's a difference between a guru and a mentor. And when you have a mentor, you need to have access to them. And it's not 24/7, but you need to be able to call the person you're paying and be like, hey, Grant, I have a problem.
Yeah, all my students get a 2-hour guarantee.
And Grant actually has a
from me.
special ringtone on his phone that pings him no matter what. Anyway, that's enough plugs from us. Hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow, 11 a.m., Iron Heels. Friday, 11 a.m., you've got Quest IRA. Tonight, REI Social Club. And then if you're in Houston, the Jet Lending Super Duper Club, and we'll be there hanging out. So if you're in Houston, come hang out with us at the Jet Lending event. But that's it. You got anything else?
Nope. Just see you next week to
Travion,
tune in about wraparound mortgages. We'll touch on lease options a little bit there
Travion,
too.
you got anything?
No, sir.
Sydney, you got anything?
Nope.
Russ, you got anything?
I'm good.
Cool. Well, we'll see you next week.
Teach me something.